Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Naruto Shinden, Parent and Child Day. Chapter 3. Father and Daughter, Table for One. Judgment Day is coming. The man's voice echoed in the lightless room. The people of Konoha lament that there is too little excitement nowadays. So then we would indeed be remiss if we did not offer them a little thrill, HM? Ha ha ha. Hee hee, ha ha ha. Other voices joined him in laughter. They will taste the judgment of the Thunder God. The man grinned, but his smirk caught no one's eye in the murky darkness. Let us distribute this throughout Konoha. We shall place it in the most prominent places to ensure as many as possible view our awesome proclamation. Ha 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 ha. The man waved his hand to show off the item he held in it. However, it's too dark. We can't see it, a woman said. What? Oh, I'm sorry. The man pulled out a lighter, and Bombay's small flame flickered to life, illuminating the pitch-black room with a red glow. The woman who had spoken before now narrowed her eyes and carefully examined the large poster in the man's hand. And then she groaned. Come on. What is this? What's with the massive picture of a hamburger right in the middle there? My newest burger, the man proclaimed with pride. I call it Astra's Judgment of the Thunder God. Very decisive, don't you think? I was going for something so powerfully spicy that it could satisfy all those people moaning about the lack of excitement lately. The second they bite into this bad boy, the shock to their tongue will be like a blow from the Thunder God dash. That's not what I meant, the woman interrupted the man's matter-of-fact explanation of his new menu item and shook her head. Why did you make it look like Thunder Burger's the main attraction? This a fact explanation of his new menu item and shook her head. Why did you make it look like Thunder Burger's the main attraction? This poster's supposed to be for the annual Konoha eating contest. I'm sponsoring it, too, you know. As am I. I'm in this, too. The other two shop owners joined her in voicing their complaints. I hear what you're saying. The owner of Thunder Burger shrugged, careful not to let his lighter go out. But Ichiraku Ramen's right there at the bottom, on the left. Q's aged roast is in the center here. And Ankaruto's zensai with rice flour dumplings is on the right, as you can see. Well, perhaps the images are a little small. Small is the problem, the elderly owner of Ankaruto cried out, and the mistress of Yakiniku Q frowned next to her. At any rate, redo the poster. The woman I am, second-generation owner of Ichiraku Ramen side. The four of us co-sponsor this contest, so make all the photos the same size. She looked around the room. And why is the Thunder Burger break room so dark? Did the light burn out or something? No. I just replaced it the other day. The owner headed toward the door and pressed the light switch. Instantly, a corner of the room was illuminated by an isolated, meager light. I am arched an eyebrow. That's hardly a light. I asked the part-timer to go get a light bulb, and for some reason, he got this indirect light. It'd be a waste just to throw it out, so I decided to leave it for the time being. The man shrugged. Before, you talked about Judgment Day. What was that supposed to mean? The mistress of Yakiniku Q asked, leaving the matter of the lighting. It means I'll be the judge on that day since I'm the commentator and judge for the contest. I was trying to work myself up. I might not look it, but I'm actually nervous about doing this. Right. The mistress of Yakiniku Q slumped in her chair, wondering why she even bothered to ask. Should we get back to the topic at hand? I am said. So, the award to be presented to the winner. We've been taking turns, and this year, Ankaruto's up. I assume that's all right? The elderly proprietress nodded. I suppose I could do an extra topping or some such. A free dumpling with your zensai. Good until next year's eating contest. Perfect, HM? She chuckled with satisfaction. However, that's not enough. Thunderburger put the brakes on. We have to make this year stand out. After all, the Lord Seventh has decided the day will be a new holiday, Family Day. The prize has to be extravagant enough for such a special occasion. How about all the extra dumplings you can eat for a year? That's... The elderly woman gasped. That'll put me out of business. You can't have forgotten. He lives here in Konoha. Akimichi Choji. Now everyone gasped. Silence. A quiet descended upon the room as though they'd all been frozen in ice. So long as he's around, and all you can eat's a no-go in this town. Isn't that right, Yakiniku? The old woman turned to the owner of the Yakiniku restaurant. True, she assented, her face pale. I reserve the right to refuse all you can eat to him alone. See what I mean? And yet here you are, talking about infinite extra dumplings, of all the foolishness. The elderly woman gritted her teeth. I'll not be forgetting, I put up the prize in the contest 4 years ago. I got swept up in the excitement and decided on all-you-can-drink amazake. That man drank me right out of stock in a single day. I just barely stayed in business. But the owner of Thunder Burger tried to placate the indignant woman. If you do something extravagant, people will hear the name Ankaroto far and wide. This is a great opportunity. Customers might actually stay away if you only offer a prize of a single dumpling, you know? H&GH. Ankaroto's proprietress was speechless. Hell ahead, hell behind, I am said, taking pity on the elderly woman. I suppose that's where we're at. If that's what you think, then we should dash, the owner of Ankaroto started, furious, but her anger fizzled abruptly. No, actually, that's good. That'll be the prize. As many extra dumplings in your zensai as you want. Every dumpling in the universe if that's what it takes. I am and the others exchanged a suspicious look, while the elderly woman lowered her face and continued quietly. I don't want to miss out on the advertising opportunity here, after all. It's a simple thing. And I've got my own secret strategy. You just wait and see. Hee hee hee. Bwah ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. The bright laughter of Akimichi Choji, the 16th head of the Akimichi clan, rang out in the living room of the Akimichi residence. He was lying on the sofa in front of the TV, stuffing potato chips in his mouth. Ha ha. Hee hee. Ha ha. Bwah. Chips spewed from his mouth, wide open in constant laughter, and shot forward to cover the comic duo on the TV in crumbs. Even that was funny. H-a-a. Ha ha ha. Heh. Ha ha. Choji slapped his stomach. His plump belly made a satisfying sound, boing boing, and as if in a joint performance, his backside cried, F-R-R-T. Whoopsie. Guess I was hitting a little too hard. Ha 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 ha. He exploded in laughter again, not learning anything from the experience, ignorant of the scornful eyes piercing him from behind. The worst, his daughter Chocho groaned, eyes narrowed contemptuously. Her voice was cold, the icy edge of her resentment at having to stand. Next her, Choji's wife, Karui, looked down on her husband just as disdainfully. You. She jerked her chin at Chocho. Go get the illustrated animal encyclopedia from the bookshelf. You know the one. What are you gonna do with an encyclopedia? Her daughter asked. Bring it down on your father's head with everything I have. Chocho rolled her eyes. Your jokes don't sound like jokes, Mom. Maybe stop. Seriously. Well, then maybe I'll just flip through it. Might be something on how to take care of a useless, lazy old man. It won't. This kind of dad's only our house. The two women sighed in unison behind Choji and his merrily shaking belly. At any rate, Karui said. Tidy up? Right. Chocho nodded. Choji was surrounded by chip bags, all of them consommé flavor. The women gingerly stepped into the nest of the useless, lazy old man. Huh? Karui questioned as she went around to the front of the sofa. Eyes fixed on the floor. A non-chip bag lay empty there. Hey, Han? Is this bag maybe? Ah! Choji stopped laughing, hearing the sudden weight in Karui's tone, in direct contrast to the light meaning of her name. I can't believe you. Karui looked up when she realized what the empty bag had once contained. That was the sweet bread I bought for breakfast tomorrow. Why'd you go and eat it already? Huh? Oh, you know. Choji shrugged. I was getting bored of consommé, so I wanted something a little sweet dash. Then eat a spoonful of sugar, she shouted fiercely, and shifted her gaze to another outrage. And this milk. Why are you drinking it straight from the carton? Can you not use a glass? I've told you to stop doing this. It's fine, though. I mean, it's just us drinking it. That is not the point. Come on. She grabbed his collar and tried to yank him up from the sofa. But given that he was about 3 times her size, although she moaned and groaned as she yanked and pulled in and GH. Damn it. Choji merely shifted from lying down to sitting up, and she was left gasping for air. Whatever. She put her hands on her knees and panted. I'm tired from getting mad, and my arms are tired. I'm just tired all over. While Karui was putting on this show of strength, Chocho had collected the garbage on the floor, and she now fanned her sweating mother with an empty chip bag. Mom. I dunno. Forget it. Yeah. Karui waved a hand. At any rate, I'm going to get groceries. I have to get tomorrow's breakfast again. She staggered toward the front door like she was still not getting enough oxygen. Oh. Shopping? Choji called out happily behind her. While you're at it, could you grab more consommé chips? We only have salt left. Karui looked back over her shoulder, and a blood vessel popped up on her forehead. She silently turned away, stomped forward, and nearly yanked the front door off its hinges before slamming it shut with equal force. Even the living room shook from the impact, and the chip crumbs stuck to the TV peeled away and fluttered to the floor. What? Why is your mom so angry all of a sudden? Choji plugged his ears against all the noise. But he could still hear Chocho muttering for some reason. Useless, lazy old man. Now that he had thoroughly tried his wife's patience, she was sure to leave him. He'd come to this realization by reflecting on his own behavior. No, there was none of that, of course. His daughter had informed him that he was in serious trouble. That said, Choji had no idea what he could actually do about the situation. He boasted that he was the best in Konoha at the art of reading the doneness of fried meat, but even now, past the age of 30, he still hadn't mastered the art of reading a woman's heart. Precisely because of this state of affairs, he couldn't come up with a way to win his wife back, no matter how he racked his brain. At any rate, all this thinking is making me hungry, he declared. Maybe I'll just go get some chips. And that was the end of that. You've only been thinking for 5 minutes, though, Chocho noted, with a wry smile. But she didn't try to talk him out of more chips. In fact, she decided to join him, and that's how he knew she was his daughter. The day he'd taken over from his father as master of the Akimichi house, he'd given voice to the anxiety that had been plaguing him for as long as he could remember. Could a chubby guy like him really find someone to marry him? That had been a needless worry. He managed to meet Karui, and they'd been blessed with this treasure of a child. He was aware that his was a charmed life. He just wasn't aware that he was a useless, lazy old man. First of all, his daughter was adorable. It wasn't just the fauna of a father talking, she was legitimately cute. Every night after she was born, he prayed by her bedside that she would take after Karui and not him, and his efforts had paid off. His wife had likened his form in prayer to a craftsman watching over ham to ensure it was smoked well, but that was fine actually. No, it wasn't. Because of these wicked thoughts about him getting mixed up with his prayers. His daughter's physique resembled a ham, that is to say, his own physique. Still, she had her mother's face, so he couldn't complain. Those beautiful almond eyes. Her plump lips. I'm just so glad my own genes are nowhere to be seen from the neck up, Choji thought fondly as he looked at her face. What? Why were you staring at me like that? Not my problem if you trip and fall, Chocho said. Choji gasped. There were a lot of people coming and going at the night market, and it was true that he might very well bump into someone if he didn't pull himself out of his own head. Dad, you bumped into a bunch of people while you were spacing out there, although they all just bounced off your stomach. Or he had already bumped into someone. It was their fault. Hey, I was just thinking about how I can make up with your mom. You come up with some brilliant idea? She asked. No, nothing, he replied immediately. Chocho frowned, and Choji furrowed his brow, puzzled. You gotta come up with one thing at least. She glared at him from the corner of her eye. Even if it's some cliched thing. Like what? He gave up right away. Think about it yourself for 5 seconds at least. She sighed. Heavily. So, like, a present or something. What about a ring or jewelry? Oh. Choji pointed to his daughter's ears. I gave you those earrings. She pulled her lips into a tight line. I'm not talking about stuff you've given me. I mean stuff you've given Mom. The earrings Chocho had been wearing were a present from his late master Asuma when Choji was promoted to Chunin. The custom in the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi clans was that the parent would give the earrings they themselves wore when their child became a Chunin until the child reached the Chunin level and the earrings were returned. Choji had originally given Chocho the earrings when she was still attending the academy before she'd made it to Genin. He decided to give her the earrings early because she had already mastered a number of the Akimichi clan's traditional techniques. The Nara and Yamanaka clans had done the same. But when it came to other presents he'd given, I don't think I've ever given your mom jewelry, he confessed. What? Chocho gaped at him. No. It's not like that. He waved his hands back and forth to excuse himself. Your mom uses lightning style, right? So then, if she wears metal, she might end up getting a shock. His daughter considered this for a moment. You could just get her something leather. I guess so. He meekly accepted her rebuttal. He wasn't so self-absorbed that he thought he didn't have to try to keep Karui interested in him. But even when he did nothing, she stayed with him, and so he gradually convinced himself that this was the natural way of things. Except now that bill of sale was coming due. But, Mom's been with you all this time. So it's like. I guess you got something going on, Dad, Chocho concluded with a smile, but then quickly frowned. Wow, awkward. I feel like I just said something super embarrassing. Forget it, just forget it. She covered her face with one hand and clawed at the air with the other. Choji raised an eyebrow. Was what she said really that embarrassing? So, Dad. She peeked out from a gap in between her fingers. What do you think you got to offer? Your strengths, the things about you Mom probably likes. What do I have to offer? That's a good question. He looked up at the night sky, as if digging around inside his head, looking for himself. One thing sprang to mind. I'm pretty nice, I guess. An extremely innocuous self-evaluation. Whoa! So boring. Chocho rolled her eyes in exasperation, and then abruptly opened them wide. A grin spread across her face. If you have anything else to offer, Dad, it would be. She snapped a finger out, pointing straight ahead. The way you eat. Choji followed his daughter's finger, which was pointed squarely at the 24-hour general store, his intended destination for the purposes of chip buying. She couldn't possibly be suggesting he buy everything in the store and devour all the snacks, could she? He quickly realized she wasn't pointing to the store itself, but at a poster pasted up to one side of the entrance. Come together once again this year, gluttons of Konoha, it read. A notice for the annual eating contest. And there were pictures, too, a hamburger bright red with chili spices, ramen topped with a mountain of roasted pork that spilled over the edges of the bowl, yakiniku meat. On the grill, sizzlingly juicy, creamy, sweets inside that made his mouth water. Oh ho! His stomach growled. All you have to do is enter the contest and show off the way you eat, Dad. And then Mom will fall for you all over again. The solution to all problems was, in the end, eating. Like father, like daughter. And look. She moved her finger toward the bottom of the poster. The contest will be held on Family Day this year, so participation is restricted to parent-child teams, it warned. So, you and me team up, we'll be a shoo-in for the grand prize. Jojo pulled her finger back and popped her thumb up instead. Oh. Oh. Right. Choji raised his own thumb back at her. They turned to each other and grinned while their stomachs rumbled almost purposefully. Family Day, the day of the big event. White smoke fluttered up into the cloudless blue sky. A large tent with a triangular roof had been set up on the athletic grounds in a corner of the old town, and seats were arranged in a tiered formation. The site had been specially prepared for the eating contest. Parents and children waited eagerly for the games to begin. Catching sight of a face he knew, Choji waved cheerfully. Shikamaru. Hey, Choji. Nara Shikamaru raised a hand in return. At his side stood a boy with the exact same hair as his father, Nara Shikadai. Ugh, Shikadai grumbled when he noticed Jojo and her father. So you are here. That's such a bother. Netch. Jojo puffed out her chest. You can count on me showing up wherever delicious food can be had, you know? From his attitude, it seemed that Shikadai would really have preferred her not to be there. But she heard a different ugh from another direction. Turning around, she spotted Yamanaka Sai, who had married into the Yamanaka clan, and his son, Yamanaka Inogen. Inogen's eyebrows were raised in an inverted V, so Uncle Choji's in the contest and not Auntie Karui? We'll never win. Not like this. Sai gave him a wry smile. Well, won't know until we try, right? That said, Sai wasn't particularly optimistic himself. So Ino's holding the fort down at home? Choji asked. The flower shop's busy because of the holiday, too, Sai explained. I could have watched the shop, but if it's busy, then all the more reason to leave it to her, Shikamaru interjected. Right, exactly, Choji agreed. She's been working in that shop since she was a kid. She'll have things under control, no matter how busy it gets in there. I guess so. Sai smiled with relief and looked sad somehow. This was always the face he made when a member of Inashikacho talked about when they were kids. He hadn't been a part of their lives back then. If even Choji had picked up on this, then naturally, Shikamaru had, too. He jabbed a sharp elbow into Choji's side, and the larger man hurriedly opened his mouth to apologize. But then he heard another ugh from yet another direction. I am so nervous. A boy with hair in a bowl cut looked as green as the jumpsuit he wore. I'm going to puke. Ugh. Erp. Calm down, metal. Calm no. Actually, it would be better to throw up. Throw up and empty out your stomach. Next to him, a similarly bowl-cut man in a green jumpsuit, although the arms were ripped off at the shoulders, yelled encouragement or something along those lines at the boy. Threw up. Threw up. Metal Lee and Rock Lee. Choji stared, preferring if possible not to witness any gross scenes before he started eating, and the father Rock gave a thumbs up and a big smile. No need to worry. We had fruits and vegetables of all colors of the rainbow for breakfast this morning. I've no doubt that my son's vomit will be a beautiful rainbow as well. No one wanted that kind of beauty, nor did anyone want to hear about it, but Rock made the declaration anyway, full of confidence. Choji opened his mouth to change the topic to anything else. So who all is coming then? I guess Naruto's not here? He glanced around. Not likely. Shikamaru shook his head. He insisted he could finish up on his own. He was trying to give me a break, but I know there was so much work left, he'd have to go straight through till morning. He clucked his tongue in irritation. It didn't seem like they'd get anywhere good following that path, so Choji grasped for another topic of conversation. That reminds me. It's strange to see you and Sai here. I mean, at an eating contest. I guess the prize was just too tempting? Yeah. Shikamaru nodded. Temari pestered me about it. Endless Sensei dumplings at Ankaroto. The dumplings are just supposed to be a bonus, though. The Azuki beans are the core of Sensei. Who needs so many dumplings anyway? Pestering makes it sound cute, but it was anything but. I mean, yesterday, Mom-Shikadai grumbled and then shuddered at the memory of it. Sounds like what happened to us, said Sai. An eating contest is an event of youth. You can't miss it, shouted Rock Lee. And what about you, Choji? Oh, I guess I don't have to ask. Shikamaru narrowed his eyes in laughter. Nah, Choji started and then hesitated. He couldn't actually say he was there to show off for his wife about what a great eater he was, so he scrambled for a different excuse. Ha 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 ha. A throaty laugh echoed across the grounds. It was a voice he'd never heard before. Sai looked back, puzzled. Following his lead, a little ways off, Choji noticed a giant who could have been mistaken for one of the Akimichi clan. And another one. The first was a tall, hefty man, torso naked to reveal his muscular body. The other didn't quite match up in terms of height, but what he lacked in height he made up for in girth. He was also not wearing a shirt, and his protruding belly hung over the top of his pants, jiggling like white mochi rice cakes. Both had their arms crossed and were bent forward toward each other. You lot have such weak reasons for being here. The muscular one shouted. There is food to eat here, and so we eat, the fat one continued. That's all a glutton needs. Haven't seen you around before. So who are you guys? Shikamaru asked. The muscular one laughed, his trapezius muscles twitching. We are wandering gluttons, father and son. We came this year, lured in by the delicious scent. I'm the cleaner of the bottom of pots, Kue. And his son, the fat one, followed. Pecking at stacked lunchboxes, door. They sent each other a signal with their eyes and then shouted in unison, together we are Kide or eat till you drop, Chocho muttered, and the massive father and son froze. A quiet wind blew past in the not-so-brief silence that followed. Hey, read the room, Shikadai murmured with annoyance, his mouth up against Chocho's ear. You could have just let them say it. I mean, come on. Father and son trembled with a barely repressed desire to continue before bellowing out, together we're Daireki drop till you eat. Wow, yikes. You just flipped it around. Inogen frowned. And it doesn't even make sense when you put your names together backwards. Melody snapped out a finger. It's meaningless. Details, shouted Kue or door or maybe both of them. At any rate, there was shouting. You with your hierarchy of small builds and small appetites. Small. Small. You're small, too. Kue pointed at Shikamaru, Sai, and Rock Lee in turn. He turned to Choji and then stopped. I guess it won't do to call you small. You're about the only one who comes close to matching my powerful stomach. Isn't that right, Akimichi Choji? Choji furrowed his brow. It seemed that this father-son team knew him, but he had no memory of the stern man before him. Impossible. Kuei's massive bulk staggered backwards. You mean to say you have forgotten our names? Last year. And the year before. And the year before that. We are comrades in gluttony. We have challenged each other to our caloric limits. I hear you. Choji shrugged. But while I'm eating, all I see is the food. Shikamaru and the others were merely perplexed, but Kuei took this excuse as a grave personal affront. You! How shameless! His face went beet red in the blink of an eye. Acting so high and mighty. I'll have you in tears later. When it comes to gluttony, this father and son cannot be beat. Kideor. Eat till you drop. Kuei and Dor walked away, laughing loudly. Everyone there gaped at this barrage of declarations. I knew it was eat till you drop, Chocho muttered, and then they heard a voice announcing the start of the contest. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for the Konoha eating contest today. We're happy to have you all here with us. Sitting at the front of the grounds, Choji sent his eyes racing across the crowd before him as he listened intently to the owner of Thunder Burger up on the stage. Oh! Dad, over there. Looks like she came. Chocho pointed into the audience from her seat next to him. And there she was, his wife, Karui. She looked terribly bored, resting her chin in one hand, but she had come to watch them at least. All right. All that's left now is to chow down. He hit his stomach like a drum before setting his fists on the table. Where's the grub? Pose, to put it crudely. Their table was a simple two-person affair. Similar tables were set out at regular intervals, about 100 altogether, which meant that nearly 100 pairs of parents and children were taking part in the contest. To their left was Eat Till You Drop. To their right were Shikamaru and Shikadai. Next to them were Sai and Inogen. And further beyond them still were the Lees. He was surrounded by familiar faces, perhaps because they had all signed up for the contest one after the other. Now then, getting right to it, allow me to introduce today's first meal. From Ichiraku Ramen, specially prepared for the contest, pork ramen with extra thick slices of roasted pork. A pushcart loaded with ramen was brought in, and a cry of appreciation rose up from the crowd. This is. Choji groaned, powerfully moved. The familiar Ichiraku bowl was covered in thick pork slices, so many that they nearly spilled over the edges. It wasn't just a flat layer that covered the top of the bowl, however, the slices were piled up toward the center, peaked in a pork mountain. Rather than being roughly tossed on, the meat was arranged in a neat spiral that grew steeper as it neared the summit. When Choji saw the tiny bit of Naruto wakame seaweed on top of this mountain, he assumed it was meant as a tip of the hat to the Lord Seventh. Under the blue sky, the translucent drops of fat on the surface reflected the bright sunlight, and Choji and Chocho's faces shone with great delight. Our eaters will compete to finish this limited edition ramen the fastest. Only the top 30 pairs will be able to go on to taste our next dish. Now, let's welcome the cameras from the studio broadcasting today's events. Everyone in the village will be watching the contest play out, so please make sure you put on your best faces. Alright, eaters? Remember, if you vomit, you will be immediately disqualified. The abrupt appearance of the word vomit gave Choji a bad feeling, and he glanced over at the Lee table. But I'm just not feeling well. And now this huge bowl, in front of me. Eyes darting from side to side, Metal Lee pressed a hand to his mouth, flustered. Choji immediately averted his eyes, and so was not a witness to what followed. What is going on here? Lee is splay washing out. Before the eating's even begun? What is happening? Ah, but this is some rainbow. The many colors of this mess splashing in an arc is just like a rainbow. Yes. Well, then, the Lee family is disqualified. Metal, don't worry about it. Vomiting is just a part of youth. I mean, your old dad here's throwing up doing push-ups, I've thrown up doing headstands. At any rate, I've done a lot of barfing. Thanks to the commentary from both the burger shop owner and Rock Lee, however, Choji got the general idea. Although the Ichiraku pork ramen was extremely satisfying, the dish that followed the powerfully spicy judgment of the Thunder God hamburger was quite a difficult foe. Choji managed somehow to withstand the terrible heated excitement and finish the burger, groaning all the while, to advance to the semi-finals with Shikamaru and Sai. Now he cooled his swollen lips with an ice pack in one of the break tents, while Chocho quietly sipped water. Ah, he moaned. That was a close one. You said it. I'd rather squeeze a whole tube of wasabi directly onto my tongue than eat that again. What are you two doing? A visitor, Karui. Mom. Chocho cried. Forgetting about his swollen lips, Choji stood up. You came to see me in action. The way I'm eating, you can't help but fall in love all over again, right? I'm here, too, you know, his daughter interjected pointedly. It's us. We. Yeah. Us in action. Choji puffed his chest out. Action. Well, that's one way of putting it. Karui's reaction was lukewarm compared to what he'd expected. An eating contest's basically a gathering of fools, though. Are you competing on food and speed, or are you competing to see who can wreck their body the fastest? To call it action is a bit much. And much? Choji parroted the word back at her. I mean, feeding you that greasy stuff. Is the funeral home actually behind this thing? I didn't see any ads for them. Well, don't go overboard in your foolishness. And make sure you get some vegetables in there, too. Karui waved a hand and then left the tent. The father-daughter duo gaped after her. So the way you eat isn't what she loves, Chocho muttered, blinking rapidly. Now then, here we are at the semi-finals at last. Our eaters will be enjoying. Clacka. Sitting on the pushcart was a tabletop gas range with an iron grill, a side dish of lettuce, and steaming meat, already cooked. Aged roast for 10 from Yakiniku Q. The first 3 teams to completely finish this hearty helping will advance to the finals. And what is wrong, Akimikis? Dad's gone totally limp. The owner of Thunder Burger shouted as Choji slumped in his seat and stared into space with dead eyes. What exactly does she love? The dazed words melted into the blue sky. Hey, Dad. Get it together. The next dish is here, all right? Chocho shook him violently. Choji merely allowed his massive bulk to sway from side to side. I don't know what's going on, but this tasty treat waits for no one. Let's get started on the semi-final round. Kui snorted loudly at the next table. How pedestrian. To balk at that tiny plate, to collapse under the pressure of carbohydrates. You're nothing but a small man, after all. My greatest shame in life is that I ever considered you a rival. Choji, Shikamaru murmured, worried. However. All right then. Semi-finals, stay art. Bong. The gong sounded before Shikamaru's concern had a chance to reach Choji, who had clearly lost the will to fight. Duh. Fine. Chocho turned from her father to face the steaming plate in front of her. She raised her chopsticks, gathered up several pieces of meat, and brought them to her mouth. So good. Dad, this meat is totally delicious. Her smile glistened with meat juice, but Choji remained slumped in dejection. Normally, he would drool copiously at the mere mention of delicious meat, but now his mouth simply hung open slovenly. No reaction to meat either? This is serious. sweat springing up on her brow. Jojo kept moving her chopsticks. And there's so much here. I mean, sure, it's good, but me polishing it off all by myself's kinda. For once in her life, she was actually intimidated by food. The meat had been piled high to be shared by parent and child, and even she hesitated in the face of such a challenge. Whoops, why? 3 minutes in, and already someone's cleaned their plate. What? Seriously? Already? Jojo looked around and locked eyes with Kuei, who was picking at his teeth with a toothpick. He flashed her a grin and made a show of having room to spare with a flourish of his fingers, or rather, his toothpick. But it hadn't been an easy meal. His sun door was slumped over just like Choji. And they weren't the only ones who were finished. I seriously never want to eat meat again, Shikai groaned. Don't talk like that. You'll be missing rice and meat in a week, Shikamaru replied. Although I definitely won't be. The plate before this pair was also empty. Father and son looked about ready to fall off their chairs. Dad, Inogen sighed. You can have the rest. He and Sai were very nearly done, too, only a few pieces of meat left before them. No need to hold back, Sai protested, weakly. You're still a growing child. None of that matters. For real. This fatty meat's too much. Both son and father were limp with exhaustion, and neither reached out for the remaining pieces of meat. Only one more team can advance to the finals. Which family will come on top? H&GH. Hey, Dad. Snap out of it already. Come on. Jojo slapped her father's stomach. But Choji didn't so much as look at his chopsticks. My appeal. Gritting her teeth, Jojo suddenly picked up several pieces of lettuce in a flash on insight and quickly wrapped them around the remaining meat. Dad, look at this. Veg. Ta. Bowls. What? A spark flickered in his dead eyes. Mom said you should eat your vegetables, right? She said. Don't you think she'll fall in love all over again if she sees you eating vegetables? This is a vegetable? Despite the fact that the meat was clearly spilling out from the lettuce. Veg. Ta. Bowls. Jojo kept at it. Right. Vegetable. Vegetabless. Choji sprang forward. In a single breath, he polished off this lettuce meat. Next to him, Jojo secretly struck a triumphant pose. They heard the sound of the gong just as he stuffed the rest of the lettuce into his mouth. And semifinals are over. Moving on to the finals are Eat Till You Drop, the Naras, and the Akimikis. They managed to claw their way to the top in this fierce battle, so how about we all give them a big round of applause? As the audience's applause rang out through the grounds, they also heard the thunk of Sai and Inogen falling prostrate on their table, unable to finish the last of their meat. Now then, let's get straight to the final round. For your eating pleasure, the last dish of the day 3 is Zensai with dumplings for 10 from Ankaroto. The pushcart appeared once more, and the tabletop grills were cleared away. In their place, 10 bowls of Zensai appeared. So no break? Ugh. I don't really want to put anything more in my stomach, Shikai grumbled with a sour face. The look on Shikamaru's face was much the same, but he still managed to produce a slight smile. It's like your mom always says, right? We've got a separate stomach for sweets. All we can do now is believe in her and cram this in it. Okay? You got space in there, yeah? He poked his son in the side. Oh. Dad, stop it. Shikai turned green. Everything I eat's gonna come right back out. TSK. The very first to react was the owner of Thunder Burger, gripping the microphone. Vomiting is not allowed. No vomiting. Let's hurry up and get started. He raised his arm up high. The final round of the Konoha eating contest starts. Nuu. His arm sliced downward through the air at the same moment the gong sounded. Dad, I can't. The younger member of Eat Till You Drop abruptly passed out. TCH. Kuei clicked his tongue. Pathetic. Throwing in the towel over something like this. Not only was he not worried for his son, he was actively scornful. Hey. Jojo pursed her lips and frowned at him. You don't gotta talk like that, do you? You would have me sympathize with a loser? He might be my own son, but those with small appetites have no right to sit at the dinner table. In the end, supper is something we taste in solitude. The sole contributor to my victory is my stomach. Kuei began to shovel zensai into his mouth. I got a bad feeling about this. Well, if he's eating all by himself, then he's no match for us. Right? Jojo patted her father's shoulder. The vegetables are sticking to my throat. I can't breathe. Door wasn't alone now. Choji also tipped over backward, chair and all. Dad? Jojo shouted. Choji! Shikamaru cried. Mwahaha! Kuei laughed loudly enough to drown out both of them and started to trash talk his opponent, firmly convinced of his own victory. It looks like your time is over, Choji. Be a good boy then and have a meal that's more your speed dash. His mouth stopped moving, abruptly. Your speed your borf. Suddenly, something white and springy flew out of Kuei's mouth. Hold on a sec. It's been a long time since I used Earth style. How do you stop the enlargement again? Hee. Behind the personnel tent, the elderly owner of Ankaroto snickered to herself. That's what you get. She twisted her fingers together in a complicated fashion, weaving mysterious signs. Don't go underestimating me. I might be nothing more than an old lady running a sweet shop now, but back in my day, I was a ninja of incredible skill. People called me Sweets Princess. Although, actually, no one ever really called me that. Her voice was hollow. Anyway, I used a special sugar for those dumplings, super enlarged with my Earth style. I wanted to crush that. Darn Takemichi Choji. I never dreamed he'd destroy himself before I could get to him. I suppose it's fine. I don't care who's in the lead, no way I'm giving anyone that prize. If the dumplings get too big, no one can finish the zensai and I win either way. The elderly proprietress laughed gleefully, then stopped abruptly. Countless dumplings spilled over from 30 trays and quickly grew so large in size that people had to crane their necks to look up at them. The sweet treats destroyed not only the tables and tent, but threatened to swallow up the audience. Konoha Hurricane. Metal Lee launched a roundhouse kick at an enormous dumpling closing in on mother and daughter. Konoha Great Hurricane. Rock Lee shot a drop kick toward the center of the grounds. However, H&GH. It's so chewy and springy, we just bounce back, father groaned to son. There's no end to it. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Ninja Art of Beast Mimicry. A pack of large ink lions and smaller colorful lions charged the dumplings. Although they just barely managed to stop the terrible rice flour pushing forward, the majority of the lions were crushed under the dumplings and disappeared on the spot. Dad, is your brush weaker than usual? Inogen asked. Maybe I just ate a little too much, Sai replied. Inogen, on your left. Got it. Opposite where Sai and Inogen were battling fiercely to keep the dumplings from escaping the field, a shadow slithered along the ground. Cage main shadow possession technique. Although Shikai's shadow checked the dumplings' movement, it did nothing to stop them from swelling to larger and larger sizes, and he frowned as he stepped back. Such a bother. Dad, you got any good ideas? I'm thinking. Shikamaru's own shadow was split into several branches, the tips piercing the dumplings like skewers. This'll stop *M. But there are too many. This really is a bother. He clicked his tongue. In front of the podium, Cho-Cho was pushing dumplings back with two massive hands. It's supposed to be food, and here it is trying to eat me. Get back to being sticky rice and try again. She braced herself with a cry, but the dumplings were too chewy, and instead of moving out of the way, they actually swallowed up her hands, jiggling all the while. Huh? What the no way? Her eyes grew wide. Then a dazzling bolt of lightning jetted down and shocked the dumpling, crackling. The world in front of her flickered from the shock, but once that died down, the dumpling had hardened and she was able to pull her hands away. What are you doing? Honestly. Carrie landed beside her, having leapt down from the spectator seats. Mom. I guess there's Earth style involved here, and look, just like I figured. Lead it to lightning style now. Carrie flexed her bicep, but then quickly looked around. By the way, where's your dad? He's... Cho-Cho started, but then froze in place. Where is he anyway? His nostrils opening involuntarily, Choji took in the delicious scent of fat together with the aroma of sesame oil and burned garlic. He could hardly stand it, the fragrant scent of yakiniku, one he never tired of no matter how many times he smelled it. He opened his closed eyes slightly, and a familiar table at Yakiniku Q came into view. Just as he'd imagined, several pieces of meat were laid out on the grill in the center, fat bubbling up on them. And then he saw there was someone sitting on the other side of the table. Master Asuma? He hadn't intended to say the name, it just slipped out. Maybe because that was where his master usually sat, and maybe because it felt like his master there. However, what are you talking about, Choji? It was not his late master. Dad. It was the previous head of the Akimichi clan, Akimichi Choza. They're almost done. Just fried enough. His father calmly shifted the nicely browned meat onto a small plate. Choji gaped at this smooth movement. Dad. I have a family, too. His father snorted in laughter, as if to ask why he was stating the obvious. He dropped his gaze to the burnt bits of meat on the grill. There's so much I wanted to talk to you about, Dad, if I got to see you again. About Karui, about Cho-Cho. I was just part of an eating contest with her until a minute ago. I can't remember why I'm here now. Eyes closed, his father quietly ferried meat to his mouth with his chopsticks. Choji didn't know whether the smile that spread across his face was because he was satisfied with the flavor or because of him. Dad, Choji said, through gritted teeth. You got any idea what my appeal is? His father finished the last bite and set his chopsticks down firmly before narrowing his eyes to look squarely at him. You're nicer than anyone else. Cho-Cho said that was just average, though. And what's so bad about average? Plenty of people out there don't have a single point in their favor, you know. His father laughed out loud. When you were a child, Asuma always told you to be more confident. He put some money on the table for the meal and got to his feet, looking pained. His father was about to leave, just like that. Somewhere, forever. Dad? Wait. I still have so much I want to. His father looked down on him, baffled. I am still alive, yes? Choji blinked rapidly. I know. But I never managed to make it back home, so it's like I have so much I want to say when we meet. What's with that, all of a sudden? Oh, just a feeling. It really is just a feeling, but you're talking as though to someone you haven't seen in a while. I am still alive, yes, his father asked for the second time. I know a thing about eating contests. Truth is, I wanted to take part myself. Pair up with my son. Father and son, you know? His father pointed toward him and smiled with satisfaction. Instead, I'm consoling myself by walking around eating the same dishes as you are in the contest. Next is a Chiraku ramen. They're serving something like the contest ramen. And then I'm going to have the judgment of the Thunder God at Thunder Burger. I think you should pass on the judgment of the Thunder God, Choji advised. Really? His father raised an eyebrow. Well, it is dull to eat alone. Food really needs to be shared. But you polished off the yakiniku by yourself, Choji protested. That's not what I meant. Choza chuckled. Choji was baffled. He couldn't understand what his father meant. Oh, he cried all of a sudden. He thought he finally understood why Karui had been so angry a few days earlier. Well, pop by the house once things settle down. It'll make your mother happy. We'd like to have a meal with our granddaughter, too. Choji bobbed his head up and down. His father also nodded, seemingly satisfied, and started to head for the door. Oh. Also. He turned around, as if remembering something. Your strength isn't only that you're so nice. I think you realized it yourself a long time ago, but looks like you've forgotten. Baffling, really. You. Maybe it was his life flashing before his eyes. A vision on the verge of death. Or just a dream. At any rate, Akimichi Choji was no longer lost. What are we gonna do? Dad might still be in there. Chocho waved toward the dense zone of massive dumplings crowded together in close formation. Karui clicked her tongue. I told him that he needed to keep his idiocy in check. I'm not interested in being a widow. She was about to charge him without any plan whatsoever. Then the center of the dumplings pack puffed up, and an enormous figure shot out like lava from an erupting volcano, first a head, followed by shoulders, chest, and then a massive body. Is that, Dad? Chocho cried. The size of a skyscraper, Choji spread his legs apart, ready to support his own weight. His floating feet touched the ground. The earth shuddered, and the dumplings coiling about his body fell away like droplets of water. He glared down at the area and then immediately ripped a dumpling up from the ground and stuffed it into his mouth. And then another, and still one more. The herd of dumplings that threatened to bury the ground steadily disappeared into his stomach. Don't go overboard, Choji, came Shikamaru's shout from somewhere. We don't know how much they'll expand. Your stomach will split in half. And true to this warning, Choji's stomach started to churn after he'd eaten all the dumplings. Chocho held her breath. But in the next instant, eating all by yourself. FWP. Butterfly wings the color of the sky spread out. Sorry, ie. Choji's cry echoed through the area. As the wings sucked calories from him, his flabby body firmed up. Thanks to the vast calorie expenditure of this technique, the dumplings in his stomach had been entirely consumed by the time the changes in his physical body settled down. All by yourself. Chocho looked up, bathed in the pale blue sunlight filtered through his massive wings. You mean the dumplings? You're about the only one who could eat all that. I don't think that's quite what he means. Karui chuckled quietly, as if she alone understood the situation. The winner of this year's eating contest is the Akimichi Familiae. Firecrackers popped, and confetti rained down on the awards podium. Chocho and a now slender Choji lowered their heads with embarrassed smiles. If that had kept up a second more, we would have had a serious disaster on our hands. And yet the contest kept going. Inogen muttered, dumbfounded, as he stood behind the awards podium. A bunch of stuff got broken, but no one was hurt. So it's all good. And they nabbed the old lady behind it all, too. Shikadai clasped his hands behind his head. Beside him, Metal bobbed his head up and down. Your dad's pretty scary when he's mad, huh? Well, no wonder after getting lectured by that old woman, Shikadai replied. After all, there's a little thing called position. Being a grown-up's all kinds of hassle. Shikamaru shrugged, and Sai offered a wry smile. Normally, this should be reported to the police, though. I think a little punishment from them would be good, too. Snap. Rock Lee thrust forward the palm of his hand. No. There's no need to go that far. The owner of Ankaroto will be more than sufficiently punished. Unlimited dumpling Zensai, Sai noted. It's simply exquisite given that she's up against the stomach of the Akimichi Choji. Quite sophisticated, taking both the winner into consideration and doling out punishment to Ankaroto at the same time, Dor added, and the eat till you drop father-son duo guffawed loudly, while everyone else stared at them, wondering what they were even doing there. Mom, they're gonna take a commemorative photo. You're here anyway, how about you be in it, too? Jojo called out to Karui from the awards podium. What? Me? Why? I didn't do anything, Karui protested, even as she started to walk over. You're my mom. You don't mean any other reason. Right, exactly, Choji agreed. And you're my wife. That's plenty of reason. Karui cocked her head to one side, persuaded by their arguments, or perhaps not. With no further objections, she stood next to Cho-Cho. So what do you want to do after this? Should we go for unlimited dumplings straight away? Cho-Cho grinned. We were almost crushed by dumplings just now. People are usually traumatized by that sort of thing, you know. To the point where they never want to even see a dumpling again. And yet you're already talking about eating them. Amazing, Karui was impressed, but the look on Choji's face was complicated. You ate too many, huh, Dad? Well, I guess. If you're gonna chow down like that. Cho-Cho nodded. HM? Oh, no, it's not that. Choji touched a hand to his perfectly flat stomach. I just had some sweets, so I wanted to get a different flavor in there. How about we pick up some consomme chips and then head over? So you're actually going to keep eating? Karui shouted. Snap. The camera captured the moment. A laughing family in the frame, far removed from any notion of having exhausted love or patience. End of Chapter 3. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.